Guillermo Del Toro may be one of the most beloved and inspiring directors working in Hollywood today, despite the fact that his movies generally don't turn a profit, sadly, and even more of his movies never even get made. He never gives up. He absolutely throws himself into his projects, and he makes the best of everything that he tries to do. He'll wait years to direct a movie that he knows will probably never happen. He's honestly very inspiring to me and to a lot of other people, which is why I thought it'd be interesting to go back in time to the mid-90s, when Del Toro was just getting started, and look back at his very first canceled movie, Meat Market, A Love Story, and what if it had been made? In 1995, Guillermo del Toro, coming off the hot success of his first feature film, Cronos, decided that he wanted to go in an interesting direction for his next film. Basically, he wanted to be a combination of Hamlet and Phantom of the Opera, and it would have been called Meat Market, A Love Story, and it would have starred his favorite actor, Ron Perlman, in the lead role, and it would have been an interesting Beauty and the Beast style movie. Basically, Perlman was going to be playing a man with facial deformities who secretly lives in the bowels of a multi-million-dollar meat factory. He secretly pines for the boss's daughter from afar, who is considered by pretty much everybody to be out of his league. However, the movie would then become an interesting thriller when the boss is actually murdered by his own brother in order to take control of the company and inherit the million-dollar enterprise. However, his niece stands in his way of getting the factory, and he actually sends people to try killing her inside the actual factory, and that's when Perlman would step in to protect her, and they would have to make their way through various parts of the factory, avoiding death and falling in love with each other along the way. Now, unlike most of Guillermo del Toro's movies, the main reason this movie was canceled was because of him. Well, more because of poor timing, actually. You see, del Toro was already working on a script for an adaptation of The Count of Monte Cristo for Legendary Pictures, as well as Mimic for the Weinstein Company, and Mimic went through a hellish production, which caused more and more time to pass, and Perlman, who was seemingly del Toro's only actor in mind for the role, ultimately aged out of the part, while del Toro was working on these projects, and del Toro sadly decided that he needed to move on to other things. And so that's the fairly simple story of Guillermo del Toro's first ever canceled movie, Meat Market. So what do I think of it? Honestly, really good. Like I know I'm sounding like a broken record saying like, oh, how all of Guillermo del Toro's canceled movies are good, but it's because they are. Like all of them sound really good to me. At least the ones I've made so far all sound really good to me. This one is no exception. Like it's very small scale, but I can't help but feel there's a lot of potential, especially for like cool set pieces. Like I could imagine if this movie was rated R, you could get some really gory kills out of using some of the, meat factory machines. Imagine that. And Ron Perlman, I mean, look at the man. He could clearly embody a guy with a facial deformity that, is really strong, sort of like a mix of the Beast and Quasimodo. I think he would do a really, really good job with that. I don't unfortunately know who the rest of the cast would have been. I imagine that Federico Lupi would have been the main antagonist because he was the main character in Cronos, and he did display, an evil side in Cronos, and I think it would have been interesting for him to, actually play a villain from start to finish. Now, I'm not saying that would have been the case, but I do think that realistically, he probably would have been the actor Del Toro had in mind for that part. I could be wrong. I'm not Guillermo Del Toro, but that just seems like the most likely option. And yeah, well, a woman falling in love with a less than attractive man is not, the most original story in the world. It's been done plenty of times. As I said, it was going to be inspired by Beauty and the Beast and Phantom of the Opera. I think that it would still be different enough, if that makes sense. Like, because of its different setting, especially, it's never been done in a meat factory, and it's never been done by a director quite like Guillermo del Toro before, and especially not starring an actor quite like Ron Perlman. So I think it would still be unique in its own way, for sure. The title is already unique enough, and I think that right there just speaks volumes to how Guillermo del Toro's projects can stand out just from a marketing perspective. Now, some people might say that brothers feuding over ownership of a meat company sounds kind of silly, and maybe that was the point. Maybe it was supposed to be like so petty, like you would kill your own brother to gain ownership of a meat company. Like maybe he was supposed to be kind of a, petty character. Maybe he was jealous of his brother's success, and he didn't even necessarily necessarily care about the factory. He just kind of wanted to stick it to his brother. Maybe it would be something like that. I don't know. But I actually don't think them fighting over a meat company would be that bad. I think that if anyone could make that storyline compelling, it would be Guillermo Del Toro, honestly. So yeah, I think this movie had all the potential in the world to be just a badass, violent, and romantic movie, taking the best of a bunch of different things like Beauty and the Beast, Phantom of the Opera, and Hamlet. And I think this movie, you know, would have actually been something really special. And it's honestly a shame that Guillermo del Toro doesn't talk about this a lot. Nobody talks about this a lot. It's kind of that Guillermo del Toro cancel movie that everybody forgets about, and I kind of think that's a shame. There's a lot to like about this, honestly, in my opinion. Because Del Toro honestly doesn't get enough credit for his romances, or at least he didn't before The Shape of Water. That man is really, really good at doing romance, honestly. And he's really good at doing horror as well. And, you know, to combine those two things, and also to make a movie that's not about monsters, but, you know, how humans can be monsters for petty reasons, I think that would be a really interesting direction for Del Toro to go. Because, you know, he's known as the monster director, and it would be interesting to see him do a movie just about monstrous people, if that makes sense. So yeah, I definitely think this is a movie with a lot of potential, and I'm genuinely sad that this one didn't get made, just like the rest I've talked about. But either way, guys, let me know in the comments down below. Would you have wanted to see Meat Market? Would you have? Do you even care that this movie was canceled? Let me know in the comments down below, because I would love to hear it. Also, give this video a thumbs up and share it with all of your friends and all your various social media platforms. And I'll see all of you in the next video.